Are you listening to the drunk monkey that lives in your brain? Those 10 hidden motives that we all have going on? Learn what those are and what in the world is your drunk monkey from today's guest, Matthew Ferry. He is a spiritual teacher, songwriter, and the author of the Amazon bestseller Quiet Mind, Epic Life. He has been coaching thousands of top performers to achieve what he calls enlightened prosperity. He has a ton of wonderful content on his website, so please check it out at Matthew Ferry. That's F with like Frank, FERRY.com. And enjoy today's show all about how to quiet your mind and get a better perspective. Hello, this is Mary Jo Tinlin from Teaching Your Toddler, and today we have Matthew Ferry joining us. Matthew, thank you so much for joining the Teaching Your Toddler show today.
I'm excited about helping out some moms.
Excellent. Great. Well, the topic that we sort of had decided to talk about is the sad states of America and how we sort of get over that. I mean, we've been going through this pandemic and civil unrest and just the politics of the last X number of years or whatever, and it's crazy. And so help us sort of, I guess, reverse course on how we're dealing with this as, you know, as moms, as parents, as people, of the citizens of this country and the world. You know, how do we sort of deal with that?
I think that the first step is to embrace what I call an enlightened perspective. And an enlightened perspective is just something that admits that all is well. And that's really tough, Mary Jo, because our mind is inherited, and our mind comes from all of our ancestors, which were actually in very intense survival situations, and declaring things wrong and bad, and it shouldn't be that way. Those are phenomenal survival advantages that we've developed. They're backfiring on us today. So an enlightened perspective is that all is well, and so we just admit, I'm sad, and I'm going to own it. And I'm just going to be sad, because what you resist will persist. What you accept will transform. And life in America right now and around the world is harder than it was before. So there's a contrast. But if we can just embrace the sadness and just like, I'm just going to be sad, what we'll find is it transitions very rapidly, because the acceptance itself has so much power to transform.
It's so funny, because you think about the audience have little kids and their emotions are raw, right? They do not filter. They are okay being sad, right? Like we as adults, we want to be in control and we want to say, we can't allow that. But I like how you said, I'm sad and I'm going to own it, because our little ones, they do.
They do, and they haven't yet fallen into the trap of cultural conditioning and trying to put on a show, pretending like you've got it together. And the truth is, we don't have it together, and we are affected by this this big change that is happening in the world, and it's happening on multiple fronts. And it's okay to just embrace, I don't know how to deal with it. I've never been in this situation before. It's not something that I have skills around. And so I'm just going to step back and fully embrace that I don't like this. And then as I do that, all of a sudden, there's some new inspiration, new creativity, new chutzpah, new ideas, it literally gives way to an entirely new way of existing. And it is the resistance itself that stops me and holds me back, because I'm literally holding in place what I don't want.
I've always sort of thought that thought of that which does not kill us makes us stronger. I mean, this is a lot of, it's the crucible for a lot of us. We haven't been in these. Nobody's been in these situations for ever, really. I mean, we had a pandemic 100 years ago, right? So it's crazy. So I understand you have some tricks that we can sort of thrive through during this negativity.
I do, actually. I think that one of the most important things to do is to acknowledge that your mind is not your friend. that it's a survival system. And that acknowledgement is a enlightened process. So you want to think of enlightenment, again, I'm just going to point right back to this idea. Enlightenment's not a religion or a place. Enlightenment actually is just an expanded awareness. And when you step all the way back and you look at the playing field, you start to realize, oh, wow, my mind is really just a survival tool. It's like a GPS. So I don't have to listen to my GPS, right? Like I look at the road and I can see there's an accident here. I need to go left. Well, my GPS starts objecting.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to take control of my vehicle and my direction, even though my GPS doesn't quite understand the situation. I'm going to propose, after working with tens of thousands of people over the last 26 years, that the mentation, the mind chatter, the negative mind, which I call the drunk monkey, has no idea what's actually going on and is going to relate to the situation based on a hereditary idea rather than in the moment, right? Not seeing grandma for the holidays is not a survival situation. And yet we have these survival responses. Your mind is not your friend.
Okay.
I think that's step one. And step two is something really, really simple that we can all do, but it's something we forget to do. And that is to create your gratitude inventory list. And when I say inventory, I mean in your house or in your apartment. Like literally walk around your house or your apartment and be grateful for each and everything that you own. And with your toddler, this is also such a great thing that you could do together. You could walk around and just be happy about that one pot that has the plant in the corner. And you can be happy about your TV. You can be happy about your device. You can be grateful for the bed that you have. And there's literally decades of research. So I'd love for our listener to just do a Google search on gratitude research, and you'll be blown away by the science that essentially says those who are doing regular gratitude experience more well-being, period, versus those who are focused on the negative or neutral. So you might also list all the people that you know and what you appreciate about them. But that's a real simple thing that you can do to guide your mind in the right direction. It's not necessarily an advanced technique, but we don't want advanced right now. What we want right now is base, because we're all in base.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow, that's a great technique.
I think the last thing that I would recommend is actually a recontextualization. So in my methodology, we start by step one is to acknowledge there's a drunk monkey in my head. It doesn't care about me. It doesn't want my happiness and success. Nobody else calls me fat or stupid, just my mind. And so, right. So the drunk monkey, we stop listening. Step two is to acknowledge the drunk monkey is motivated by something deeper than my thoughts. And I call those things the hidden motives to survive: greed, grudge, hatred, victim, illogical rules, humble, traitor, pride, resistance, and lazy. Those 10 motivations inspire all my thoughts. So if I can spot the motivation and bust it, my thoughts quiet down. Step three is to begin to ascend into enlightened perspectives. Like, just examine everything that you believe. And what you'll decide is, oh, wow, I believe things because of where I was born. I'm geographically belief oriented. If I was born in a different part of the country or a different part of the world, I would believe something different. Therefore, my beliefs aren't actually real. They're not true. They're not valid. I'm not the ruler of the universe. What I want doesn't matter. No one actually cares what I think. Giving my opinion is the source of my suffering.
Mm-hmm.
That if I didn't give my opinion on it, then I wouldn't suffer, because my opinion creates resistance and conflict and strife. So you ascend out of opinionation and you go into these enlightened perspectives, which is all is well. And then that helps you to do well. But that leads me all the way to my third tip that I would give people, which is to recontextualize the situation. And that's the fourth component of my rapid enlightenment process. Breakdown is the beginning of breakthrough. And this situation that we're in right now will give way to the next surge of positivity in my life. And what there is to do is to embrace the breakdown, embrace the sadness, embrace the anger, embrace the upset, embrace the isolation. It's like not only embrace it, but just be isolated. Like go into your monk mode. Go into embracing your toddler at an even deeper level, embracing your family at an even deeper level. Just retreat. Retreat on purpose rather than retreating because you are being forced to.
Consciously retreat, right?
That's right. It's like ride your horse in the direction you're going.
Wow. Yeah, those are great. I love those, the 10 motivations. Those were really, because I mean our brain is wired to believe the negative more readily than the positive, right? So we have to actually train ourselves to not do that, right?
Yeah, and here's the interesting thing. I'm a fourth generation personal development teacher. So my father was my mentor, and he was a personal development teacher, still is, in the real estate sales training industry. His mentor was a man named Earl Nightingale, who essentially started the personal development industry. And then his mentor was a man named Napoleon Hill, who wrote the book that kind of like launched the whole thing, right?
Yes.
And so I have been immersed in personal development my entire adult life. And what I found was that training the brain to be positive, training your mind, let's call it your mind to be positive, is really difficult. It doesn't really care about positivity. I would look in the mirror and say, I'm a powerful person. And then the drunk monkey would come swinging out of the jungle and say, you're stupid for even saying that. And so the more effective or more probable way to get our mind to stop being so negative is to actually acknowledge that negativity is a phenomenal survival strategy, and then to step back and be honest. The thing that is going to kill most Americans, stress and food. Cancer, heart attack. That's going to kill most people. By a lot, right? By a margin that is not even imaginable. And yet the mind will spend all of its time freaking out about all kinds of things that are not likely to kill us. Now, did they kill us in the past? Yeah, they did. But we're in a new time. It's time to update our perspective and our genetic, hereditary, processes. We have to update them for the world that we're living in.
Right, because we're so used to engaging that sympathetic system, right? The fight or flight system versus the parasympathetic system, which is really where we want to be.
Exactly right. And again, for me, what I've found is the way that you get positive is to be as negative as possible. And that just blows people's minds. I mean, I've spent my whole life in the personal development industry, and that immediately disrupts most personal development types.
Yeah.
But if you will, for example, like if I'm a mom and I'm thinking about sending my toddler to preschool, and we're in the middle of the pandemic, and I'm having like heart palpitations on a regular basis. Should I? Shouldn't I? The school says they're taking precautions, right? There's all of these crazy thoughts that go through our head. The most powerful thing you can do is to actually face the worst case scenario and to write it out and to be present to, like, this is what I'm afraid of, and then make a plan. If that negative, terrible thing happens, here's what I would do. Now, of course, we don't like it. It's nasty. It's terrible. It's disheartening. It's frightening. But something happens when you face the worst case scenario. You make a plan for it, and you make peace with that. I don't like the plan, but I'll do it if it happens. Now all of a sudden there's a new level of freedom and creativity and resourcefulness and joy that bubbles up, and it really fires up positive decision making.
Wow, that is a tactic that I have not heard, but I love that. So you're just sort of letting yourself go to the worst dark place, and then from there you can start to look at the good side.
Yeah, yeah. It's literally like saying, "Come on, drunk monkey, let's go. Let's go all the way to the darkest, most negative." Because the drunk monkey will go there no matter what. The drunk monkey doesn't care if you're happy. The drunk monkey is an information machine. It's giving you information about the journey you're on, and its job is to help you to find those pleasurable things and avoid those negative, harmful things. That's what it's doing. So if you'll embrace it fully, then you'll quiet it down. If you try to resist it, you'll ramp it up.
It's almost like a little kid when they want your attention, right? Like just give them the attention. Right? Instead of ignoring them, because then they start to freak out and have their own thing. So I've got to ask you, what is the source of the drunk monkey? Like, how did you think of that, or where did that come from? Because that's a really interesting concept.
Well, for me, when I was 21 years old, I was studying a Mexican man who lived in Texas at the time, who was a meditation teacher. And he was talking about Jose Silva was his name. And he was talking about this Eastern idea, the monkey mind. And I remember 21, partying, crazy, out of control person at that time, and thinking to myself, man, I don't have a monkey mind. I have a drunk, wasted monkey. My monkey is absolutely bonkers. And it stuck. Of course, it's grammatically incorrect to call it the drunk monkey, but grammar and spelling were never really my thing. But the drunk monkey became a representation for me, which helped me to separate that there was a biological function occurring that was forecasting the negative, had a desire to fit in, was trying to look good, has opinions on everything, including all the things it knows nothing about. And as I started to pull apart what the functions were of the drunk monkey, it actually gave me more power to be at peace, experience more joy, and make more positive decisions for myself.
Wow, that's really incredible. I love that concept. So we've done a lot, and I love the idea of just taking yourself to that dark place, letting that joy bubble up, like you said. We've been very fortunate to have a lot of guests on here who talk about mindfulness and who talk about things. But I would love to hear sort of your practices for helping walk through this in a more mindful way, and what are your recommendations?
Really, really good. Well, I would say I would start by every day saying two things. Breakdown is the beginning of breakthrough. So what I like to do is I like to put reminders in my calendar. And when I put the reminders in my calendar, they pop up, and I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot. Because until you are a member of the Breakdown is a Breakthrough club, you need a reminder because you won't remember. So you put it into your calendar, it pops up. Another thing that I would have pop up, let's say midday, is something that says, my mind is not my friend. It doesn't care about my happiness. And then the third thing that I would remind myself of, maybe in the evening, is something like practice total and complete acceptance of all situations, all people, including myself. Now, these are three really tall orders, but these are the kinds of contextualizations that will dramatically transform the landscape, the emotional and spiritual landscape of your life.
Wow, those are great methods that I've not heard. I mean, I love that idea of the calendar, sort of, just because you're right. It's not a habit. It's not something we think of consciously unless we see it over and over and over, right? So those are wonderful ideas. I know your website is just filled with content, and you do, is it a daily podcast? You do a podcast, you have all kinds of stuff, right?
Yeah, I have Daily Enlightenment with Matthew Ferry. I actually was doing it daily for about 265 days before I was like, okay, I need to take a break.
Commitment.
So I got about 265 of those up there. I think that for our listener, the fastest way to create some relief from the negativity and move into a positive direction is actually to go on the App Store and download my free app, which is just my name, Matthew Ferry. And then in the Quiet Mind Epic Life folder, there are 23 daily practices. And these are just little 6-minute practices that you can take on. And if you listen to one every day or every couple of days or whatever, it will bring you into a framework that actually makes negativity irrelevant. And that's the key. It's not that you try to train your mind to do something. It's you actually transcend survival consciousness.
Oh, wow. That's, 6 minutes. We can all find 6 minutes for that.
Yeah, even if you are, even if you just have one earphone in your ear and you're hanging out with your child and letting that just sink in, that would be really powerful.
Absolutely.
My gift to the world.
Oh, thank you. Well, your website, matthewferry.com, and that's Ferry with an F. I will absolutely leave the link in the show notes so that people can find you and find all of this information, and also the app, like you said. And that's great. Is there are there any other places that we can find you that you would like the audience to know about?
If they haven't read my book, Quiet Mind, Epic Life, if you would like to have a quiet mind or an epic life or both, then that'd be a good place to start.
Excellent. Great. Well, thank you. I so appreciate it. What would be sort of your parting words of wisdom, or one last thing that we would want to tell the audience?
I think I would just say that enlightenment is the recognition that the source of life for you is the source of life for everyone and everything, that we're all one thing expressing itself with infinite variety. And science has essentially proven that there's a background field of energy and information. We call it the quantum field. And all things are an expression of that. So be kind, because everyone and everything that you're dealing with is just you. You're dealing with you everywhere.
Wow. I think we could do a whole show on that. Wow, that's amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining the Teaching Your Toddler show today. It was a pleasure, and love to have you back if we can have a great topic. And thanks so much again. And I hope that listeners enjoy the show.
Thank you.
This has been the Teaching Your Toddler podcast with Mary Jo Tinlin. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you'll find us on our website at www.teachingyourtoddler.com, as well as on Facebook at Teaching Your Toddler, on Instagram, and on Twitter at Teaching Toddler. So join us again, and I hope you have a wonderful week. Thank you so much.